Hey everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of the Jay Davis Show. I'm excited to have Tim Winkler with us. He's the president and CEO of VIP Tire and Service. Thank you for coming on the show, Tim.
Thank you, Jay. Glad to be here.
Well, do you want to give a quick bio for all the listeners?
Yeah, I can do a quick one. Grew up in Oklahoma and graduated from the University of Oklahoma, so Boomer Sooner. Got an engineering degree and out of college, ended up in my first job in the automotive world at a air filter factory where we made air filters for cars. Did almost 10 years at that company in various roles. Um, Got married, 4 children. Moved on to another company, also in the automotive world. That time we were making starters and alternators, the largest rebuilder of starters and alternators in the country. Long story short, after about 10 years there, I was in a VP of sales role covering North America, and one of our customers happened to be this small company up in Maine named VIP. And I got to know the owner up there. And long story short, he asked me one day if I was interested in moving the family from Oklahoma to Maine and coming to join him on this journey at VIP Tires and Service. And so that was almost 14 years ago. And so about 5 years ago, he stepped aside as the CEO to be executive chairman and to run our real estate growth side of the business. And so today I get the privilege of serving our 650 employees as the president and CEO of our company. We've
It's
got
amazing.
70 locations throughout New England and adding five or six a year.
That's incredible. Does the real estate arm essentially decide where the new locations are, and that's some of that work?
Yeah, he scouts out the new markets, new locations. He owns all the real estate. So that's really his and his team's role, as well as renovating the existing stores. So anything that has to do with lease management, property management, and new market identification. Of course, I get to spend some time with him in the field, assisting in that area. But that's really his and his team's focus is the new store growth, and my primary focus is then myself and our CFO and our COO. Really keeping the operating business working and going in the right direction and continuing to grow and be more and more profitable and help our people hopefully love their jobs at VIP.
It's amazing. One of the things I would love to ask, you came in to take over from a founder, it sounds like. Uh, what have you learned about taking over from a founder? Maybe some good things that people should do, maybe some things people should not do. I think that's one of the things I notice with entrepreneurs is they always start with like, man, I'm going to run this forever. And then at some point they hit a kind of realization. I just hired a CEO for one of my companies and I hadn't thought about that. I'd never thought about like, okay, what am I going to do if one day I'm not running this company? What have you learned going through that process?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I've never had that question asked of me before. The first thing I'll say is our owner John Quirk is a guy who obviously extremely intelligent. He's definitely fits that mold of kind of the entrepreneur. He took huge risk early in his career as he was growing the business, but he also identified the fact that he wanted to bring in a professional management team, if you will. And so I think even years ago, he sort of had a long-term vision that someday he would have the right people in place, that he wouldn't have to be the day-to-day operator and leader of the business. Some of the things I've learned along that way is, there are times that, he's still very involved. He's not as much involved on the operating side, but his office is still here in the same building. He still very much pays attention to how we run the business. And so when you're going to be interacting constantly with a founder like that, there are times that you kind of have to make sure you and they stay on the same page, and you can't get your feathers ruffled easily because, they're going to have opinions. You're going to have opinions. Sometimes, most of the time we agree, but of course, sometimes we don't. And he's got to be He's got to have the vision to know when to say, you know what, this is Tim's company that I trust him to run. And then there's going to be times that I have to be open to the comments and criticisms and suggestions that come with somebody else who really knows the business well, and I can't be defensive myself in taking on that information that he may identify for us. So we have a great relationship. We're both passionate. Sometimes we both get red in the face as we're talking out some of our issues, but we always end up going in the right direction, and it's I think it's healthy for the people even around us to see the fact that we can both kind of get up into each other's face a little bit sometimes, but we're also always going to always end up on the same team.
Yeah. No, and I think that's great. I love what you said about really humility, like the humility of recognizing that both of you want to have the same things happen and the business to succeed and to get better. And I think it's also good for people to see that you can debate and have kind of a exchange of ideas, that the passion is because you care and because you're excited about the business. I think that's all very, very good advice. And I think it is something that's really hard. It's hard. Most people don't think about it. When you're starting a business, it's just kind of everything's like, I'm going to do this forever. I love it. I'll never stop. And then at some point that ends. That has to change.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Right. No, it's and one of the other great blessings is he's always given us the freedom, if you will, to do the right thing for the long term. And that's one of the I've worked for a couple pretty large companies that were very quarter to quarter focused,
Yeah.
like a lot of large Wall Street driven companies tend to be. And sometimes, you kind of scratch your head when you see some of the decisions those organizations make for some sort of short term metric or gain that they're trying to get. Our owner has always, supported the fact that if we can explain why something's the right thing to do long term, he supports that, and it's allowed us to invest, whether it be payroll, time, equipment, different approaches, benefits, things that in the short term may cost a little bit more, but we know that we're building a culture that is over the long term going to be a much more successful business.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's amazing. What have you learned? I think another really kind of hot topic for leaders and especially entrepreneurs who are building something is it's always hard to find great people, develop great people, manage great people. What have you learned, and what can you share with the listeners about how to find great talent? Do you have a process? Do you have a system? Any tips and tricks? Because I think there's definitely this shift as you start to build something, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't need to figure out all this by myself. I need to find great people who can solve all these problems for me.
Yeah.
Your founder, John, right? I think
Yep.
you mentioned his name. John at some point had to say, I need to find someone great to lead this team. I can't do both of these things. So any
Right.
tips you'd give us?
I guess just yesterday we finished a 3-day leadership course that we take some of our new managers through, and it reminds me of a book that we sample from in that leadership course, and the book is called "It's Your Ship." Michael Abrashoff was a Navy captain, and he wrote this great book about really turning around the culture of a ship. And one of his chapters is called "Round People for Round Holes." And so, the idea is get to know your people and get to know people generally. I mean, John recruited me to VIP because his company was a customer of ours. So I happen to just be this vice president of sales that he interacted with because they were buying our products. And we met with his team, and he got to know me a little bit, and enough that he thought, you know what, here's somebody who I think could add some value to my business. Most of our talent development, and when you talk about kind of where we are today as a company, we have a huge promote from within culture. So we have, as we're growing, we're bringing in, quite a few people into the organization every quarter, every year. And so what we've done is, by having a very, very healthy promote from within culture, we identify people early on who have those attributes that we might be looking for in a certain department or in a certain leadership role. And then we are very, career focused, and we have these conversations where we will identify someone and say, you know what, we think you have the DNA to move into this part of the organization or to be this kind of leader for us. But here are the things that maybe you need to do. Maybe we need to send you to some sort of financial, management school because you have all these other attributes, but what you really don't have is the financial piece of the business. And so we're willing to invest in that for you, but that'll help you to, be able to fill this role that we see that the organization is going to need in a couple years. So between, I would say promoting from within, especially if it's a large enough organization that you're bringing people in more entry level positions, make sure that, you're always identifying where that raw talent is and who's promotable. And at the same time, leaders got to get to know their people really, really well. And that's the whole idea in that chapter I talked about from Captain Aberchoff is he got to know all his sailors so well that he knew when he had an area of the business that he knew he needed some talent in, he could immediately identify who had an interest in that same area. So you can dovetail where people's interests and skills are with what the organization needs.
It's amazing. I love that. That's great advice. And I think always finding that right seat on the bus for people. And I love that. Is there something that you think, I think this is another question that I personally have is, that promote from within, promote from outside, bring someone in from the outside. Is there something about VIP that you think makes that, like, I don't know how to phrase it the right way, but like, that's the right choice for us because of X? Is that, how did you go through that thought process for a listener who's like, hey, should that be my approach as for my business, or should I take a different approach?
Yeah, no. I think it really all depends on what area or what expertise and what position you're trying to fill. For us, the promote from within works really, really well for our multi-unit managers. There's a lot of larger companies like ourselves and obviously bigger than us who tend to look for their district and regional talent from outside the company. And so they bring people in maybe because they've run, a bunch of stores for some other competitor, and they think, okay, we're going to bring somebody in who is going to come in and inject this, level of energy and talent or whatever into the company. And sometimes for different organizations, maybe that is the right solution in a certain situation. For us, what we have found is, our business with 70 stores now and growing, the leaders, the managers at each of our locations, that manager and how strong they are, how good of a leader they are, and how well they feel supported by the organization, that's what makes or breaks our business. Our best ideas and the things that have really transformed our company, they don't come from a boardroom and 3 or 4 people sitting around dreaming up some great idea. It comes
Yeah.
from the people taking care of our customers every day, comes from our managers who are developing and leading their people every day. And they're the ones closest to our customers. They're the ones that know what we need to do to become a better business. So for us, the promote from within has just really resonated because now all of our district and regional and our director of stores, they're all people who've run one of our stores before. And so they've
Yeah.
walked a mile in the shoes, and that's huge. But having said that, our CFO's been here 17 years, but if I, need to go bring in a number 2 in our finance department, we happen to have a very experienced lady in that position today. But if I've got to go replace her someday, I'm not going to promote that from within. I'm probably going to go find an experienced finance professional who is going to, that I'm going to bring in. So it really comes down to kind of which need are you trying to fill within the organization. And for us, there's, there are obviously some support positions we might go outside for, but for a lot of them, we like to promote out of our stores into our support center as well.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's a really good advice. And I also just want to point out what you said about uh, innovation. Is how I would probably describe what you said is often we ignore those kind of frontline people That's one of my things is like often you'll find these companies where they will sit as a executive team and say, what do our customers want? It's like, dude, ask customer service. They're the ones
Right.
who they're talking to them every day. Like what it needs to be improved on our products. That's something with PillowCube. I always go and want to hear from, all of the different people. We have a monthly innovation meeting where it doesn't matter if you're, a customer service person or the janitor or whoever. If you've got a great idea, let's hear it and let's figure out how to make it exciting for you. Because I think that's exactly that point. Is a lot of times, you have customers who are talking to those frontline people and they're saying, yeah, I wish you guys, changed this about a process, or I wish you guys would offer this product, but you guys don't. So I end up going to your competitor, and so often we just think, well, the top has all the answers, that the top of the pyramid, and it's really the full team and engaging the full team. So I love what you said there.
Yeah,
um,
and just to put a finer point on that, 10
yeah.
years ago, we started an annual employee survey and what we call our all associates meetings. So every January, we just finished it for the 10th year in a row. We send out a brief survey to all of our employees. Most of them fill it out, and we kind of assess their satisfaction in various areas of the business, and then we give them some open comment areas where they can just tell us, hey, what would you do to help VIP become a better company? And then we put all those survey comments and all those survey results together. We print up books, and then we go hit the road. Our leadership, myself and 5 or 6 other members of our leadership team, we spend most of the month of February and the first week in March in meetings across our geography, and we end up meeting with every single employee in groups of 15 or 20 at a time. And we have about a 3-hour session where we just talk about the business. We talk about the highlights of last year. We talk about what's coming up this year. And most importantly, we give them a voice and we say, here's what the survey's telling us are the areas that we think we need to get better in. But I want to hear from you personally, and if I'm sitting next to a kid who's only been with the company 3 months, I say, hey, Johnny, tell me, how's your first 3 months been? What could have been better? And we try to dig up these ideas so that our people who are out there taking care of our customers have a voice. And it's an annual process, but we try to make it, something that happens on a more regular basis at the store level. But at least once a year, every employee is going to sit with the CEO, the president, the owner, the HR manager, our VP of stores, and we're all going to sit in a room and talk about how to make the company better. And I can tell you, over the last 10 years, all of the most transformational changes we've made to improve our company have all come from that grassroots level of people in the stores telling us, you know what we really ought to do? We really ought to give entry-level techs a toolbox to get them started. We really ought to have a better customer process. We really ought to pay for everybody's ASE certifications so they can build up their career. All these ideas that we are all part of our company today all came from our store associates giving us ideas of ways to improve the business.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that's such a great lesson for every leader is, how do you engage that group? Because often they have those great ideas, and if you don't, they'll go start something themselves and say, I have all of, there's all these great ideas that are kind of being ignored. And so I love it. Um, what's the part of the business and being a CEO that's most exciting for you? And how do you make sure that that's where you spend your time? And how do you fill in the team around you to do those things that you recognize either don't get you excited or just you're not the best at?
Hmm. Um, Interestingly, probably for me, the most exciting part are, I would say, two things. Number one are the events that we hold. Uh, and then in addition to, and almost, I guess, tangent to that would be the training that we do. I love, if I hadn't become an engineer, I was going to be a teacher. I
Yeah.
love teaching. I love helping people learn. And it just so happens that over time I've developed a fairly good stage presence, if you will. So when we have our big annual conference, which is a 4-day event with all of our managers and a couple hundred people and all of our key vendors, and we're at a big resort on the coast of Maine, and I'm kind of like MC in the whole thing, and we're doing our awards and we're training and we're doing a bunch of great stuff. That's like my favorite event of the year. We do, we're getting ready next week to have our Master Technician Summit where we bring our top 80 technicians from across the company all together for a day of training. The day after that is our tire sales expert training. The day after that is our safety monitor training, where all of our safety experts from all of our stores come together. And in every one of these events, as well as many others throughout the year, it's my ability to, or what I really love doing is engaging with our people and doing it in these forums where they're not in the store, busy with their job working on cars and stuff. Of course, I love going out and visiting them then, but, when I'm out in a store visiting with someone, they're I'm trying to have a conversation. They're busy trying to help customers get cars fixed and do the things that they need to do at the store level. So sometimes I can get out there and help them a little bit, but for me, it's much more rewarding to be at these events where I can really engage with people and inject some level of enthusiasm and energy into the workforce in a way that helps them go back to their jobs and kind of carry forward that vision of the bigger picture. I may be in a store with 8 or 10 fellow team members taking care of customers every day, but I'm part of this 650 employee company that's growing and doing these great things. And so I love the enthusiasm and the energy that we get when we all come together in those events. And then, like I said, the leadership training, we invest a ton of training into our leaders, P&L classes we hold, several leadership classes a year. So we do a lot of training, and a lot of companies that get to our size, they end up hiring trainers and having dedicated training people. As the CEO, I love getting in front of our people and spending an entire day helping them to learn these leadership concepts that I learned early in my career. So I stay very hands-on in that training role. And so for me, I think that's probably the most enjoyable area for me. And the other pieces of the business and the other pieces that kind of have to get done that maybe aren't as enjoyable for me, I have just an awesome team around me, and they help me to, fill in those holes. And I guess as things come up, if things aren't as interesting for me, if I need to be there, if I need to be hands-on on it, if people tell me that, of course I'll do it. But we've got other people who have, specialties and backgrounds in other areas. And so really, it's pretty natural how the rest of those things get done that maybe are things that I'm not personally as involved in.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I think that's great. Is there anything that you have as kind of like a trigger, like a monthly kind of time where you sit down and evaluate, where you kind of decide, hey, am I straying into things that are not my strengths, but the day-to-day emergencies are pulling me into? Do you have anything like that to help you kind of stay focused on what you're best at?
Um, I don't have like an intentional way to kind of do that assessment. I think that happens fairly organically in our organization because I'm interacting with our owner on a fairly regular basis. I'm also interacting with, our VP of stores and our other directors in our other departments. And so, they involve me
Yeah.
on things that they know I may have a perspective on, and we have a very healthy balance, I think, between, I love uh, the fact that our culture is such that people feel empowered to do most of everything they need to do without, checking in with me. I don't have to approve stuff or anything like that. But at the same time, because they know that from my perspective, overseeing the entire organization, oftentimes there are times when I will, and not to mention I have a background in, engineering, finance, marketing, operations. So sometimes there are perspectives I can provide that they may not have thought of just because I happen to maybe connect some things that they hadn't connected. And so we just have a great, respectful way of working with each other that I think keeps me from ever diving too deep into something that's unnecessary. But having said that, our marketing, director might come to me and say, "Hey, I've got this script for a new TV ad, can you take a look at it? Because sometimes, there's a
Yeah.
few words here or there that I might find a way to say it just a little bit better to match our brand. And she knows that, that's something that I have something that may contribute to helping make it better. But it's not a situation where she feels like she has to run something by me. It's just a respect-based relationships that we have across the organization.
I love that. I think that's such a great point. And I think that's often, being CEO is a lot of being able to help guide. And like you said, it's training, it's helping people to improve. I think I am similar in that I love to teach. I love helping people learn. Uh, and there's some things that, don't excite you, and you just got to let people who are really great at that do that stuff. So it's
Right.
it's a
Yeah.
great part of it. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, anything that you guys are working on for the coming year that you're really excited about, want to share?
Um, I think really for us, we're growing faster than we've ever grown. It wasn't that long ago that 10, 12 years ago, the company was struggling to make money, and we sort of had to do a reset and really have to kind of look at the organization and reset a new vision of how we were going to become what we call a people focused company. Um, that was 2012 ish. By 2018, we had earned our stripes, if you will, able to open up a new location again. We then went to a couple a year this year. I mean, right now, probably what's kind of really cool is that we've got like 4 or 5 different acquisitions going into some new states that we haven't been in before. I'm getting to interact with these other shop owners who've built really great businesses, and they're sort of ready for an exit plan, and
Yeah.
we've earned the ability to be one of those at the table who may be able to acquire their business and help those people come into the VIP family. So for me, that's kind of the exciting phase we're in right now, is kind of accelerating the growth curve, and that's a lot of fun, and it also gives me the ability to really get to learn how some of these other shops have become successful shops on their own right, and then how we can learn from them as they become part of our company.
Yeah. I love it. It's awesome. Well, if people are looking for a job, maybe they're in your area, what's kind of the best place, or they want to use you as a customer? What's the best place to learn more about VIP?
Yeah, they can go to our website, vipauto.com. They can learn all about the company there. They can find our careers page. We also have a careers email at careers@vipauto.com. I do quite a bit on LinkedIn, so people can find me on LinkedIn. And as an example, last year I kind of championed the automotive right to repair initiative in the state of Maine. So there was a whole lot of activity around that whole right to repair subject, which of course could be its own podcast. I did plenty of those though last year, but
Yeah.
so there's a lot going on in our industry, and
Yeah.
it's a great industry to be in. It's a lot of fun, and we're growing like crazy. So people can check us out on the website or LinkedIn, and we've got, of course, a whole digital marketing platform, and you can find us all over the place on social.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and experience that you had to earn the hard way. We really appreciate it. And thanks again for being a guest.
Absolutely, Jay. This has been enjoyable. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Tim.